Hello, everyone, and welcome to Should I Make My Family Watch, a podcast where I make my family and friends watch crappy horror and sci-fi movies so you don't have to. I'm your fill-in host, and joining me today is Kirsten Craig. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So we're going to give you a detailed breakdown of the storyline of this piece of crap as best we can, and then rate these movies on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being only a little shitty, 5 being the worst piece of garbage you've ever seen in your life. Now, this one, okay, listener, like, if you've never heard of this movie before, I want you to Google it because if you don't, you're going to think we made this up. You're going to think we're lying to you, but trust me, it's real. It's called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yeah, it's
How's,
something.
yeah, how was your viewing experience on this one?
Like you said, it was hard to get through. I was very bored, which, if it's a bad movie, I'm like, it could at least be entertaining and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
It was
was
a
one
lot.
line. There was one line that got me, which is at the beginning when the Pooh and Piglet are kind of cornering Christopher Robin, and Chris finds Pooh and he's like, "There's something wrong with Piglet. He killed my wife."
Yeah, I wrote down a couple quotes that I was like, did they really say that? Like, um, at the beginning, he's like, when his wife is getting killed, he's like, stop. Like, that's literally all he says is like, stop. Okay,
Yeah,
that's all.
he just sits there like screaming and doesn't fuck it. Like it is so wild. Um, yeah, for a wild premise, it was pretty boring though. I was looking into it and just sort of reading the Wikipedia page about it. Apparently, this was filmed in 10 days on a budget of $100,000, and it was filmed in England in the Ashwood Forest or something, which is what the Hundred Acre Wood was inspired by. So they literally filmed it in the Hundred Acre Wood. Um, I admire the committing to the bit, I guess.
Yeah. It looks like it was filmed in 10 days. Yeah.
Yeah, I also admire committing to the talking animals thing, even though, like, it was just two of them and they were clearly dudes in masks.
Yeah. No, I wrote that. I was like, several times I wrote down, like, so is Pooh like a bear with a human body, or did he like morph into a human when he turned evil, or like what is this?
Yeah, it was pretty baffling. Do you want to take, in terms of synopsizing, do you want to take the front half or the back half of the movie?
Mm, uh,
Because I have some things to say about the beginning. I can start if you want.
okay, you can start.
Yeah. So a common thread in the past couple of episodes I've been hosting is how much I hate expo dumps. Like notoriously, they drive me insane. And we even got into a bit of controversy about the last episode we did, Prince of Darkness, because a lot of people thought we shouldn't have covered that because it wasn't a shitty movie. I didn't like it because it was basically a big expo dump, but that's just my opinion, right? So like this film fucking it got my number. It just like it knew what I would hate most, and it started with that, which is an expo dump. Uh, and it was like Five Nights at Freddy's tier lore. Like this didn't need lore, by the way. Like this concept did not need lore, but they just decided to do that. And it was like a hand drawn sort of expo dump explaining the backstory. Because of course it was. It couldn't show it to us. Had to tell it. But anyway, it's like Christopher Robin is a kid and he finds these anthropomorphic talking animals and he becomes friends with them. But then as he grows older, he has to leave for college. And I guess these animals have such terrible abandonment issues that like they they didn't know how to survive in the wild, even though they've been living there presumably since
Yeah,
before
yeah.
Christopher Robin got
I
there.
I literally wrote, "Yo, why are they mad at Christopher Robin? Shouldn't they be able to like fend for themselves like regular animals?" Like what?
Yeah, but apparently they can't because then like winter hits and they're all starving. And the drawings show them as being like super emaciated and make them look really creepy. And they cannibalize Eeyore. They just eat him. And which, yeah, I mean, that's sad. You know, you didn't have to do it to the guy who's in the worst mood all the time. Or maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe it was a morale thing. But anyway, yeah, I think it's wild too because the exposition dump says they cannibalized Eeyore, but there was four of them remaining. But for the rest of the film, there's only two animals. There's only Pooh and Piglet. There was no Tigger. There was no owl. There was no rabbit. None of that. Um, I remember the whole film. I was thinking like, "Where's Tigger? Like, what happened?"
You'd think they'd eat Piglet first since he's a pig. He probably would taste the best, but
Yeah, or you'd think Pooh would just eat all of them because he's a bear.
yeah, yeah, because he's a big back. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean bears are much bigger and require a lot more food, so like he would eat all of them realistically. But I
They
don't
didn't
know.
have the
It's more
budget
family.
for other. They didn't have the budget for other bad masks. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. Yeah. So then and on some level, I thought at first like maybe the reason they did this part in exposition is because they didn't want a child actor. But then later they had a really silly flashback showing like Christopher Robin as a child. So like they could get one, they just didn't for this part. Fine, whatever. I don't know. I'll just accept the premise of this film as it is. Uh, but yeah, so we cut to Christopher Robin coming back after college with his fiance slash wife. The script couldn't really decide which one she was, and he's like trying to convince her that these talking animals are real, and she's just kind of trying to gaslight him into thinking they're not. And this goes on for like 5 minutes. Uh, and then they find Pooh and Piglet, and the two animals murder them brutally. They murder his wife slash fiance first, and that's where we get the line of Chris Robin seeing Pooh, and he's like, "There's something wrong with Piglet. He killed my wife."
And it was such a bad kill scene to me too. It was so anticlimactic for a first kill scene. Like what? She just
Yeah,
kind
it
of
wasn't.
like she was dead.
Yeah, yeah, no, she didn't. Yeah, a lot of the kills were pretty janky in this film. But that one was pretty bad. I remember like one kind of interesting plot twist is that they made it look like they killed Chris Robin here, but they didn't. They brought him back later. Because I remember once that point got over and I thought they had killed him, I was like, what was the point in showing all that then if they're just going to have a different cast? Like, why did they need to do all this?
Yeah,
But
yeah. I was wondering why
yeah,
they didn't show his kill since he's like a central part of their backstory, but then it made sense later. So that was a little
yeah,
surprising. Yeah.
yeah, like interesting plot twist, I guess, you know. But like once he was shown later, I was like, oh, he's gonna come back in the end. Like I immediately knew. Like why else would they put him there, right? But yeah, so then that's over, and we cut to this gal in a therapist's office talking about some pretty severe trauma that she had at the hands of a stalker, which is sort of clarified a little more later. But the therapist says like, just go on a vacation, take a break, it's a quiet place or whatever. And so she does that. She decides to bring all of her friends, and I don't remember all their names, unfortunately. I know the main girl was Maria. There was like a Instagram influencer whose name was
Lauren,
Laura. I
Laura.
think it was, yeah, Laura. And then there was, oh god, the lesbians, Alice and Zoe, I
Zoe.
think was the name.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then there was a third one that I couldn't remember. But she had like the glasses, or a fifth one, I mean, the glasses. Yeah, so then, they get there, some stuff is established. There was another one who was kind of late, and the animals got to her before she could even make it to the house. She's like a redhead.
Yeah,
That was weird.
her boobs had to come out too. I noticed that. I was like, they had to, like,
Yeah.
her shirt had to get ripped and her boobs had to come out. So, you know.
Yeah, they definitely played on that slasher trope of like, let's get the titties out. Because that's they did that with her, where like Pooh killed her, ripped her shirt off for no discernible reason, and then I think he throws her in a wood chipper, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I wrote that. I said, the old wood chipper situation. So, like, that was my,
Mhm.
yeah, my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I remember doing that scene. I had to like pause and go to my computer settings and turn up the brightness because it was so dark. I genuinely couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So then I watched it again, and he just kind of like smashes her head against the wood chipper repeatedly. But like the struggle is just so not convincing that I had trouble figuring out like what was going on.
Everybody in this movie to me feels like they want to die because they're just like, no, you know,
Yeah,
they're not really
yeah.
trying. And I'm like, okay, you just wanted to go in the wood chipper, I guess, because she's not struggling at all. So,
Yeah, I kind of felt like the one guy who was trying was the guy who played Christopher Robin, but he like I don't know. There were times when like he kind of overacted it a little bit. Um, but whatever. I'm not here to critique people's acting skills because I'm a terrible actor. So um, but yeah, so I think it's after that the first kill with the main cast outside of the redhead is Lara, the kind of Instagram addicted one.
yeah.
Um, and if the redhead getting her top ripped off wasn't enough, they had to kill her while she was in a hot tub, and even had like an extended scene of her like taking thirst trap photos for Instagram and like really drawing a lot of attention to her chest area, adjusting her bikini and all that, just so you can so they make sure you can see the fact that she has perfect tits or whatever. And yeah, then she's. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, what I wrote down about that part was, I said, dog, why is this one girl, like, just vibing and, like, swinging her hair around and taking selfies in the hot tub? And then she sees, like, someone behind her. She's like, oh, well, get back in the hot tub.
Yeah, she's like she notices in one of her pictures that Pooh or maybe Piglet is but it's behind her in the bushes, and she's like, whatever, I'm not gonna let this stalker ruin my evening. So she keeps going.
She's just vibing the whole time. Like, she does not care. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think it was like this one was one of the weirder ones because I genuinely couldn't tell what they were going for. Because Pooh and Piglet, they kidnap her and they tie her up and they put her on the road. And Piglet's behind the wheel of a car. I don't know how they got the car, but yeah, he's behind the wheel of the car, and then Pooh has a sledgehammer, and they're like closing in on her, and for like a while they're just kind of standing there awkwardly, like who's going to be the one to do the kill, and what are they going to do with it? Are they going to do it with the car? Are they going to do it with the sledgehammer? What's happening here?
I feel like it was for, like, tension building, but instead I was just like, hurry up and do what you're
Yeah,
going to do.
yeah, exactly. And then they didn't even use the sledgehammer because he just like got back off of Laura, I guess, and then Piglet runs her head over, and we get a gratuitous shot of her like head being squished or whatever, her eyeballs popping out. But I don't know. It was just kind of like, and they made sure to have her screaming for a very long time.
Oh yeah, and it was very to me. Like, I was excited about the head squishing, which sounds weird, but it wasn't. It was kind of a lackluster
Hmm.
kill. And then I also said, like, bears that couldn't fend for themselves without Christopher Robin can not only work a car but drive it. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe he taught them how to drive or something. um, yeah. Oh, God, what happens from here? This is the one part I had burned into my memory, but
So the other two girls come running because they hear her screaming, and
yeah.
The one girl says, "This doesn't feel quite real," which I thought was so weird because she's saying it about the car being moved with the door open. Like that's what she's saying. This doesn't feel real
Yeah.
about. I'm like, what? So that was weird. And then they
Oh,
see that she's dead.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember now. Like, okay, so they freak out, they start building a plan or whatever, and then they split up, even though they said they would stay together. Um, and then so the one gal, Maria, she says like, "I've got a gun. Let's go to my bedroom and find the gun." And so they're searching for the gun. And meanwhile, the lesbians are somewhere else. And this film, they do it. They bury the gays. At least they didn't bury them first. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I was really happy. I put, well, at least they have a queer couple in here. I love to see it. And then, like, immediately after I wrote that, they're, like, dead. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, no, they just immediately like, I don't know. It was really that one was also a weird one because it seemed like they tried to do the same building tension thing, but it just took too long.
Oh my gosh. Why was she in the pool and they were and Piglet was chasing her and he's like swinging like just like barely and she's like not getting away from him. I'm like, get out of
Yeah,
the pool. Why are you still in the pool? What
I
are you
know.
doing?
Yeah, and then there was also like the fact that like before he didn't even jump in the pool with her at first because like so he hits Zoe with a sledgehammer and like crushes her face and she's dead. Um, and then like Alice jumps in the pool to get away from Piglet. And so he grabs these like chains and tries to like maybe hit her with them or like lasso her with them or something. I couldn't really tell what he was going for, but it didn't work for obvious reasons. So he just jumps in the pool instead. Just like, why didn't you just do that first? Um, or no, 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 no. It was Alice. He knocks Alice out, but doesn't kill her. Zoe's the one in the pool. Kills her with the sledgehammer right as Alice wakes up from being passed out and has to watch her girlfriend get murdered. Horrendous thing to happen. She escapes. I forget how. But she meets back up with the other two girls. I think. I
I think they
think.
grab her. Maybe no. I can't remember that part. I think I was so pissed about the pool scene. I don't really remember from like how. Oh no, he took her. Pooh took her to their little hideout and tied her up.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
He
this
was
is
eating the
where
honey, like, and it was like very bizarre.
this must have been where we got that weird scene when we find out Chris Robin is still alive because like it shows there's like an interaction between him and Pooh. Pooh has him like tied up, like chained up. Um
The whipping scene, because my one of my kiddos walked in, my 11-year-old, and she during the whipping scene, and she's like, "What are they whipping him with?" And I was like, "I think it's that lady's hair." And she was like, "This is whack," and then she walked off.
um yeah, so Christopher Robin, he's all tied up and he's like sobbing for some reason. He has this exchange with Pooh where he's like talking about like their history and it
Yeah.
like yeah, it's just trying to appeal to like the humanity in Pooh, and then like this starts to affect Pooh, and you see like a tear come out of his mask or something,
Yeah.
and
Something.
yeah, and then he like destroys everything out of like in his room out of anger, and then whips Christopher Robin, and it's like a very gratuitous kind of kinky scene.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, because there is some like romantic subtext in that dialogue that they have, which was interesting.
I noticed that, but I was like, maybe I'm just like a weirdo who looks into that too hard, but
No, it is
yeah.
the way it was written had that sort of weird subtext.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think this is also the first time we see him like eating honey, which was
Oof.
always horrible to watch every time
Yeah, yeah.
he
Yeah.
just like reach his hand into a jar or whatever and just like rub it on his mask, and it would make all these like horrible like squelching noises.
Sloppy noises, yeah.
Yeah, it was very bad to look at and see and take in with the eyes. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So Yeah, we get that, and I think this scene was the part where like that weird flashback came in, where it like Pooh kind of flashes back to Chris Robin's childhood, where he's all nice to them and whatever, and it was a very ridiculous, very silly flashback. Um,
Yeah.
oh well, I think that might be the halfway point.
Okay. Sorry, my cat is in here now meowing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we have a special guest then.
Yes. Um, I'm trying to see where that would be. Oh, okay, yeah, on my notes. So that happened. I can't remember if the whipping scene was before the pool, like Piglet in the pool scene. Um, I said, what kind of gun is that? I don't know if you noticed the gun they had, but
It
I
was
was
like a
like,
weird revolver.
is this an
Yeah.
old Western movie now or what? And then yeah, the pool scene was hard to watch. And then I commented that like at this point when because Pooh takes the one of the lesbians and has her tied up, and I
Right.
couldn't figure
Yeah.
out like there's a drop of honey that drops from somewhere on her, and Pooh goes over and sees it, and he's like pissed off. Okay, Milo. He's like pissed off, and he starts like slapping her, and I'm like,
Yeah.
is he mad about the honey or what? What
Yeah. Like what happened there?
is he triggered by something that we don't see? And then the other girls rush in and they like get her out of there, but like the whole time they're saving people, they're just throwing the ropes off of them. Like I was like, why did they not get out more easily if they just literally just picked the ropes up and they got out of there? I was like,
Yeah.
dang, they didn't even spend any time on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they get her out and they are. Then they run into Christopher. Wait, yeah, they run
Yeah.
into
They
Christopher
do.
Robin
Yeah.
and they get him down really easily. And he's like, hey, I'm here. And
Yeah.
then they hear another lady screaming, which we don't know about before that point. And I'm still not really sure who that lady is.
Yeah, she was just some random abductee. Because I was like, this is how I ended up on the Wikipedia page for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, is because I was
Mhm.
trying to figure out who she was.
Yeah.
Like she hadn't shown up in the in the film up until then, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like it was weird too because like Chris Robin, he says like just go without me, I'll catch up or whatever,
Yeah.
and like there's no explanation as to why other than like the moment I saw him say that I was like, oh, he's gonna come in at the end and rescue somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, they find this woman Charlene like suspended in the air.
And all
Oh,
like
yeah,
disfigured.
I think like she wasn't in the movie up until that point, but I think her purpose was they showed this like weird sort of apparatus that Pooh had built to like extract blood from a victim and then shower Christopher Robin with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh
I don't,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't know if that was his blood or if that was Charlene's blood. Her name is Charlene, apparently.
Yeah.
But
Hey
yeah,
Charlene.
that's the best I can like deduce about her.
The whole blood thing, like that I saw it when it happened, like after he was whipping him or before, whenever that was happening. But I was like, what like other than psychological warfare, what is the point of that?
Yeah, like what's the symbolism there?
Unless it just had to fit with the blood and honey title, and that's but yeah, so they get Charlene out, and this from this point forward, this is where I was like getting really kind of like pissed because I was like, this
Yeah.
is so ridiculous. So they
Oh,
get her out.
this is the one where I had to get up and take a walk. This Go
Yeah.
ahead, continue.
They get her out and they're like, all hobbling out of there, and they only go like a few steps, and then Charlene, or that's whatever her name is, she sees herself in a mirror that just happens to be there randomly, or the glass or something, and she's like freaking out about how she looks, and they're trying to tell her to be quiet, but they're really not trying very hard to tell her to be quiet. They're just like, no,
No,
no, no,
you're just
no,
like
no.
shh, 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 shh.
Yeah, they don't grab her mouth or anything or like jerk her away. And so she starts screaming. Of course, that brings the monsters or whatever. And Charlene decides she's going to jerk that gun away and she's going to go one on one with Piglet, which is what? That makes no sense.
Yeah, this is the part where I really need to talk about this. Can we talk about
Okay,
this?
yes.
It's like I so she steals this gun, right? And she's going out into this room because she wants to get revenge on Piglet for what he did to her face or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She shoots the gun like off into nowhere, just like at nothing that we can't even see. And then when Piglet finally comes out, she lowers the gun and like they're like sort of walking in circles around this fire pit, and I'm just like, he doesn't have any weapons. You have a gun. You
Yeah.
can just shoot him. Like, why aren't you shooting him? What are
And I,
you
I think it
doing?
was them trying to again add like runtime and then also like tension. But
But there's no
honestly,
tension because she has a
no.
gun and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's that simple.
yeah, why did you even make a big show of taking the gun and I'm gonna take a stand and I'm gonna kill him. I'm not leaving here till he's dead. And then he's there and y'all are just playing like Ring Around the Rosie or something. Like
And then it gets fucking worse because like I had to pause it and take a break. And then when I come back, finally she raises the gun and tries to shoot it. Apparently this gun only had one bullet in it because she's like clicking and it's not doing anything. Like,
yeah.
you could have just done that. Like,
At the beginning, yeah. Just shot him when you first saw him instead of like all
I
this
know, like,
fanfare. Yeah.
it was so dumb. It was that made me mad.
Well, not only like it's just not only was she like a character that we don't have any context for
Mhm.
or plot about, so she just
Yeah,
pops in like, "Hey, I'm Charlene," and then she does this really dumb stuff, and you're like, "Really, girl?" And
yeah.
then she gets killed, and you're like, "Okay."
That reads to me like, because when you're trying to build tension, you always have to throw a wrench in things. When there's a solid plan, you have to throw a wrench in it in order to make the conflict more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that reads to me like the writers needed to throw a wrench into this otherwise pretty solid plan,
Mm-hmm.
um, which was to get Alice out and shoot the monsters with a gun. And that, I mean, that's a solid plan. So
Mm-hmm.
like they needed something to go wrong, so they just dropped this random character in to make everything worse. And like,
Yeah, it could have definitely been done. Like, I would have loved it more, which I'm no director or whatever, but like, if what if they had like Tigger or Rabbit like randomly show up instead of
yeah,
that Charlene lady? Like, that would have been more interesting
yeah,
to me. But
throw a
it is
wrench
what
in
it
something.
is. It happened. It was something.
Yeah, no, but
Um,
for real, like get like a silly Tigger mask or whatever, and have him come out and play good cop. He's just like, I can't be around these fucking freaks. I gotta get
yeah,
out of here. And then, he sort of lures them into a fire pit or something and tosses one of them in. Like, you could have done that.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Other than showing the blood being like harvested or whatever, I don't really. I was like, wow, I just wasted like 10 minutes of my life. And then after that we have let's see what happens next. Oh, there's like a fight with Pooh because he comes in, right?
Mhm.
Because Piglet kills Charlene. And then I think the main lesbian they rescued, she stays behind to
Oh,
fight
she
Pooh.
kills Piglet, doesn't she?
Yes, she's pissed because she's like, this is for my girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the thing that sucks about that, because I was like, oh hell yeah, we love some vengeance, but again, she tied him up super quick, and she had these like fancy knots. I said, what? How did all these people know how to tie and untie knots so well? Like he was
yeah,
really secure for her to like beat him up or whatever. So she kills him, and then Pooh gets pissed and is fighting with her. And the thing that sucks, and the other girls run off, is like I was excited about her getting like revenge because I love a good revenge
yeah, yeah. Me too. That was a
scene.
good scene.
But like as soon as she does that, then Pooh kills her, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like they just gave her that scene to like absolve themselves of any accusations of burying their gays or whatever. Like, just give her a sledgehammer and have her say, like, all right, this is for Lara, this is for X, and this is for, my girlfriend, Zoe. And then just immediately kill her off. Yeah.
yeah, Yeah, it was pretty crappy. So that happened. And then the two other girls that got away, they're running down the road. And of course, a car comes up because, like,
Oh
that's what
yeah, this is the other one that
happens.
made me mad. Yeah.
So as soon as the truck pulled up, and this is the typical horror trope of like these women in distress asking for help, it's a truck full of men. And I wrote, so there's rednecks everywhere, huh? Because they looked like rednecks. I guess like the British version of that. Uh,
Well, they talked like Americans. Some of them did.
it was
Did
like
you
a
notice that?
mixture, yeah. Because I was like, is that a country accent? Because obviously I sound like that. But
Yeah.
then the other guy was like British, and I'm like, are these just like
Yeah.
redneck British people? So they sound like that, or
Yeah, like I don't know why the one of them wanted to do like a redneck American accent because it's
yeah,
established that this is in England. Like
yeah.
all the characters are English. It's an English film studio. It's so weird.
Are we in Tennessee now, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course they're like the tough guys, and they're like, we'll handle
Mhm.
him. And then they just proceed to like circle around and do like a whole like um what's this the movie where the guys all beat the other guy? Anyways, they're just like banging at him and hitting him and stuff. And it's not doing anything. And so at this
Yeah.
point I was like, so is Pooh super strong and basically indestructible? Like he cannot be destroyed? And if so, how did he almost starve in the woods?
Yeah, my best guess is that if you were to fight a bear, it would take more than four guys to take down a bear. Bears are quite
Yeah.
large and quite deadly. And so like that's my best guess is that's what they were going for. But also, if it were four guys fighting a bear and the guys were like rednecks, they would know not to fight a bear. Like, they would know not to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it's like it was all weird. I remember thinking because the last movie we watched, Prince of Darkness, it had like an Alice Cooper cameo, and because the film was so dark, for a second I thought one of them was Alice Cooper.
It did kind of look like that. Like it
Yeah, he was the one with like the terrible like
hair.
yeah, and also the weird accent. I think
Yeah.
the imperceptible accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one pissed me off because I was like, they're closing in on this bear, and it takes way too long. They're like trash talking him. It's to the point where I had to like mute it and kind of skip over a couple of seconds to just like get through the scene because it was driving me insane.
It was bad. And you're like, y'all are these tough guys. Y'all don't have a gun. Like you just have
Yeah,
like sticks and stuff. I
yeah.
don't
How are
even know.
you guys rednecks, but you don't have shotguns? Like that's my thing.
Yeah.
Is there like way more gun control in England, and that's why
Must
all you
be.
got is like a crowbar or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Like a wooden spoon. Yeah. And the girls in the back, like I always hate that, which I know it's part of the whole thing that they're like in distress and they're going to try to get
why
help
didn't
from
they
these
drive
people.
away?
Yeah,
He could have
I
just
would have
driven
drove
away.
away. I would have driven. I would have said, "Bye, y'all. I'm peacing out." Because, like,
If you want to
sorry.
fight a bear, good for you. I'm out of here.
Yeah. So they just are in the back screaming, as one does. Very, very horror trope, stereotypical. And then,
Right.
of course, Pooh kills them all. And at
Yeah.
this point is when, uh, wait, I'm trying to remember what happens next because there's a part where Pooh kills. Oh, I think Pooh maybe reaches in the car and gets one of the girls out.
Yeah, the girl with the glasses.
Because I commented on this because Pooh gets her and then he's dragging her away, which is whatever, but like he's walking backwards with her backwards, very slow, obviously so we can see her. But
Right,
what
yeah.
kind of person stealing somebody is just dragging them slowly backward? Like,
Well, a person who's waiting for Christopher Robin to come up behind her
yeah, it was just like a big
and
setup. Like, okay.
yeah.
And then he kills her and he throws the head at the car, the truck, and of course of course the windshield wipers go off.
You can
And
curse, it's
oh,
fine. Who
okay,
cares?
I forgot for a second that I was like not just talking to you. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the windshield wipers go off, which I thought was funny. That did make me laugh because then it's like spreading her head and blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Christopher Robin comes to the rescue because he has to be the hero, and he slams into Pooh and like wedges him between the two cars, which was pretty
Yeah.
cool, except Pooh totally survives that.
Yeah.
So
Again,
Yeah.
to be fair, a bear does weigh only a little bit less than a
That's
car.
true. I guess it was less like satisfying to me because like Pooh has like human hands and a human body.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
like,
no.
there's
Again,
not
like
even any fur
I'm
on
just
you.
yeah, this is just me trying to justify it in my head. Like this is me trying to find some logic to apply to this thing that doesn't need it. So
Yeah, I think, and I hate that about me because I do like overanalyze stuff that really has no need to be overanalyzed. Honestly, like he just is what he is. There's no lore that explains why he's like that, and he just is. But he does
yeah,
survive it. He pushes the two cars away from him, and so then of course the remaining girl and Christopher Robin, he's trying to kind of like get her out of the way, but they're going really slow. You know, they're just barely moving.
yeah,
So Pooh catches up. Yeah, and we get
yeah.
another scene where he's like, "Please, Pooh, I'll go." Like whatever,
I'll
you know.
stay with
He's
you. I
just
won't abandon you. I'll stay with you forever, or something
yeah,
like
and
that.
Pooh kind of like puts the knife like down a little bit, but then he says, "You left," and then he kills that girl. And I
Yeah,
really felt like this is another me overanalyzing, but Christopher Robin like holds this girl while she's dying, and he's just like sobbing, and I'm like, "Do you know her?
yeah.
Why are you
Maybe
so
it's like
upset?"
the guilt of like knowing that because he's got a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
blood on his
like he has
hands.
killed a lot of people and blamed it on him. So he's
I could see that.
yeah. But I think yeah. So that's how it ends, right? Like Chris Robin flees and Pooh's just like stabbing this girl over and over again.
Yeah, and it was so anticlimactic. Like,
Really, yeah. You want to know the worst part?
hmm.
There's a sequel.
Someone asked me, I told him I was watching this to talk with you about, and they were like, "Are you going to watch the second one too?" And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No,
No.
the Wikipedia page for this fascinates me if you'll allow me to read some of
Of
these
course.
facts. So, in addition to it being shot in just 10 days in the 100-acre wood, like the real one,
Hmm.
originally it was only going to be shown for like a one night event just in the UK. But because it blew up on social media, it expanded to like a major theatrical release worldwide. So it was first released in Mexico, then in the United States, and then in the UK. It's considered one of the worst films of all time, won 5 Golden Raspberries, including Worst Picture. Um, and despite this, it was a huge box office success, relatively speaking, because on a budget
Hmm.
of $100,000, it
Hmm.
made 7.7 million.
Holy
Uh,
mackerel.
yeah, yeah. So like pretty crazy. And I think that's why they did the sequel,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
despite the fact that this one was so so awful.
Yeah. It's,
uh,
it's, it's, there's no, I mean, I'm sure there are people that really liked it, but there's no way I feel like anybody can say that's a good movie because it's just,
I don't think anybody really liked it.
no.
I think it was just the novelty of the
It was
concept
so
because
bad. Yeah. And then
yeah,
it's
yeah,
Winnie the
like
Pooh.
yeah, and it started controversy because it was taking this like beloved children's property that had just recently become public domain, and then
Hmm.
turning it into a very brutal slasher. Of course, got to get all the tits out too. Just make this as adult as possible.
Yeah.
And here's the most concerning phrase in the Wikipedia page. This film is the first installment in the Twisted Childhood universe. So they're going to be doing this with more properties. I assume they already have. I know they. I don't know if it was the same studio, but one was done about Steamboat Willie once that went into public domain. Uh, I'm not sure if I want to watch that one. I don't know how I feel about it. Not because I care about like Steamboat Willie or Mickey Mouse or anything, but just because I've seen this and
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
to see anymore.
You
Like,
know what you might have to expect. Yeah.
yeah. Like at first I was curious about it. I was like, maybe I'll put it on the list for this podcast. And then I saw this and I was like, no, I'm good actually.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I should never say never, but honestly, like, I have no desire to watch the second one. Like, I've seen
Yeah.
enough. I've seen enough.
Yeah, I was hoping that this would at least like they would lean into the silly premise, because it
Like
is a silly premise.
really campy or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping
No,
they'd
it
make it that
wasn't.
way.
It wasn't funny at all, except that like maybe one part where it wasn't meaning to be funny, but it was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like they could have at least like relied on the fact that it's very funny that they're saying these are talking animals, but it's obviously a guy in a mask.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
that,
yeah.
I was expecting that to be funny, like throughout the movie, but it really was. Like even that,
No.
it was just kind of like, yeah, it's pretty awful. So what would you rate this movie on 1 to 5? 1 being not so bad, 5 being like the worst trash fire you've ever witnessed.
Oh man. It's pretty bad. It's probably a solid 5 for me. If not a 4.5, but it's up there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would
What about
say
you?
like it didn't make me too mad. It
Mhm.
was bad, but it didn't make me like belligerently angry the way
Mhm.
like Death Note did or whatever. So I would say probably about a 4 out of 5. I would say this one's bad. Don't watch it.
Or watch it and then just be like, "Wow, I wasted my life." But
Yeah,
I've
two
seen a
hours
thing. Yeah.
of my limited time on this earth that I'm not going to get back.
Yeah, no, I definitely won't be recommending it unless somebody is like specifically asking for like what's a bad horror movie? Like this
Yeah,
Blood and Honey is bad.
yeah. This one isn't even fun to watch high. By the way, like that's a
Oh,
discussion that
yeah,
we've
no.
had about movies for this particular show. Is like some of them aren't they're quite bad, but like they're fun to watch when you're like inebriated or
Yeah.
when you're with friends and you want to
No,
like
yeah.
riff on it. This one
Mhm.
isn't even fun in that regard. And like I think part of it is also just because like stuff that has to do with like sexual violence really wigs me out. Like that's a
Mhm.
thing that like it takes away the fun for me. And so having this girl be uh you know survivor from a stalker, and then having all of this like sexualized violence is just all of that kind of like soured it for me. What would
Oh, yeah.
otherwise have been I think far funnier, the fact that that was such a core element of it like
Mhm.
really wigged me out, especially because the gal didn't even survive at the end.
Yeah, I
um
think too, like when I wrote down that like while I appreciate movies bringing up things like trauma and sexual assault
yeah,
and stuff, like it is important to talk about and destigmatize. I don't feel like this was a movie for that, and I feel like they could have just made
no,
the girl like wanting to have a vacation with her friends and not added that aspect because it really didn't advance the plot to me personally.
yeah,
So it was just kind of like,
no, it did nothing. Like you said, this film wasn't the right place to be talking about trauma. A slasher film about Winnie the Pooh is not the right place to be talking
no.
about this sort of thing.
It could have been left
So,
out completely, and it still would have been effective. Well, it's not effective, but it would have made more sense for the horror trope if they're just a bunch of ladies going out for like a ladies trip.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember actually texting Victor while I was watching this, and the part where she starts like kind of revealing and talking in detail about her trauma with this stalker to all of her friends. I
Mhm.
texted him and I was just like, "Girls' night." Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So yeah, but it was bad.
it was. I agree with you. And I tried to like, because I was talking to my friend before I watched it, and he was like, it's fun to watch these bad horror movies and then like kind of see what you can find that's good about it. Like that, even if it's bad, that's fun
Yeah,
or interesting. And
yeah,
I really sat there and I was like, what is good about this movie?
yeah. It takes a while to think about. I will say, like, I did like that the guy who played Chris Robin was trying. Like, I could tell
Oh,
he was
yeah.
trying,
He was the
and then I
best
did,
actor out of all of
yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah. And then also the scene with Alice beating the shit out of Piglet out of revenge. Like,
Yeah, that
I
was
feel
good.
like in a better version of this movie, that should have been the ending.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if they had both committed to the fact that it's a silly premise and not tried to add in like all this oddly serious stuff,
Yeah.
and then just had that be the end of the film, like this gal being maybe like a final girl and just going ham on both of them,
Yeah.
uh that would have been a lot more fun to watch. I
No,
think.
I hate that, like, I mean, I guess it is another stereotype that they like killed off all the women.
Mhm.
Um, and then Christopher Robin's like, I guess the hero, but really everybody's dead, so he's not. But I was like really hoping there was a final girl. So
Yeah, I'm curious about the sequel. Hold on. Let me just hold on a
maybe
second.
there's a surprise where somebody's still alive somehow.
Yeah, because
Charlene.
he was the best actor in that film, which means I assume they reused him.
Yeah, and that's like I hate to judge like you said acting, but honestly the acting in this was really bad. Like
Yeah. Yeah, so he's like one of the main he's one of the main characters in the second film.
okay.
Very few people believe his story for obvious reasons. Um and he has like nightmares. He goes to a hypnotherapist. They start talking about trauma again. And they
Oh Lord.
again, this doesn't need to happen. He
Mm-mm.
had a twin brother. They used the twin brother twist. They used it. I can't believe they did that. But they did. Cool.
That wouldn't have come up. Oh my Lord. That's
Yeah. These are the kinds of rabbit holes that I go down when I'm on the internet. What else is in the Twisted Childhood universe? Let's see.
it's funny because I actually like was very obsessed with Winnie the Pooh as a
Oh, okay.
kid.
Hmm.
So watching this, I had to like separate my childhood feelings of Winnie the Pooh from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So the only existing films in the Twisted Childhood universe so far are Blood and Honey and Blood and Honey 2, but there are 4 slated to come out in 2025. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare,
Oh Lord.
Bambi the Reckoning.
No, no, they didn't. They're
That's
not.
horrible, but also a very funny title. Pinocchio Unstrung. Uh,
No.
oh no. Oh, they're doing an Avengers.
Ah,
Yeah, Pooniverse, Monsters Assemble, Pooh like Winnie the Pooh. Terrible title.
Pooniverse.
Yeah, Monsters
Ugh.
Assemble. Jesus Christ. All of these are directed by the same guy. The screenwriter also seems to be the same person for most of it. Yeah, so for the first one, the director, writer, and producer were all the same guy. And then now he's got like other people working with him, I guess, but he's still doing the majority of the directing and the screenwriting. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is a mess.
The Bambi one just, oh god. I
uh,
might have to watch that
okay,
one.
yeah, the title is funny though.
It is.
Bambi the
And
Reckoning.
Bambi's so like it's like such a classically like traumatizing movie for a lot of people who
Hmm.
saw it when they were kids, or it was for
Yeah,
me. But like what? Is it going to be like a person with a Bambi mask on?
yeah, God, it's gonna be
Oh
the
my
worst.
gosh.
And they're gonna pass it off as a talking animal too, instead of just committing to the bit. But
Yeah.
well, if we're done discussing the film, I'd like to do a bit of an interview with you, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So my first question would be, what is your favorite shitty movie, and tell us what you love about it.
Mm. This is maybe objective. So I love the Labyrinth.
Hmm.
It's really not shitty, but a lot of people think it is shitty.
Hmm.
So that would be my answer, but I don't know if that's like a classically shitty type of movie. Also, I love Love Guru.
Oh, that one's definitely yeah. That one's
Uh,
debatable. Yeah, controversial pick.
I quote that all the time, and now like I would not watch it around my kids because it didn't age well. It's
Oh,
very
it's quite
problematic.
problematic. Yeah, from what I
But
hear. Yeah.
yeah, it is. But there's so many quotable like parts of it that Mike Myers says, and I don't know. I don't know.
Sometimes you have those things that just stick in your head.
Yeah.
Uh, I get it. I mean, my answer to this question was like kind of a weird one too. I answered John Dies at the End because that one's not necessarily a bad movie,
Hmm.
but it was like a huge box office flop. And
Oh.
yeah, and then became like a cult classic. But I watched it on Netflix, and it's a great movie. It's a indie flick, but when I say a huge flop, I mean it had a budget of $1 million and only
Mm-hmm.
made 100,000, so like 10%, which is
Yikes.
pretty. Yeah. But I love it because I loved the books, and so I liked that they adapted it. So what is the worst movie you've ever seen? It's just it doesn't have to be horror, but just like a movie you hate.
Mm. It's hard because right now this one, the Blood and Honey, is
Yeah.
it's it's pretty like high up there, and honestly, I can't. Uh, I watched Where Evil Lurks. I don't know if you know the title I'm talking about, but
It sounds familiar, yeah.
it's like a Spanish subbed horror movie, and I hated it. I hated it.
Mm.
I hated Blood and Honey more, but yeah,
No, I mean, there you go. There's your answer.
yeah.
So, what kind of horror genre is your favorite, and what's your favorite way to get it? It's like books.
Cosmic horror, and it would be books. Yeah.
Okay, right on. What's your favorite like cosmic horror book? Do you have a couple or?
Yeah. Anything Haley Piper. The Worm
Mhm.
and His Kings, that whole series is fantastic.
Mm.
So that's and I also love the book Ring Shout by P.J. Clark. It's awesome cosmic horror, historical fantasy mashup. So yeah.
I do love historical fantasy, so that's
Yeah. You
well.
should
I'm
read Ring
working on
Shout.
it.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a very large manuscript that's historical fantasy. So,
That's exciting.
yeah, I actually technically finished it last year, but because it's so long, the revisions are like intimidating.
Did we talk about it on my podcast?
I don't think so. I'm hesitant
Okay.
to like announce things that are like far in the future. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
Because
feel
like
you.
I don't know when it's going to be finished. Is it going to be in 2025? Is it going to be in
Yeah.
2035? Who knows? Yeah. So, what is something you would like to see more of in horror?
Oh, this is probably a cliche answer, but obviously, like queer people,
Mhm.
BIPOC people that do not get killed or not like token or whatever, like,
I agree.
stereotypical. So that's pretty much the main thing. I would love to see more. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a spoiler for future episodes, but we are going to be talking about President Evil. At least I want to watch that film for this podcast to be topical for the election coming up because that's
Mm-hmm.
the Donald Trump slasher. And from what I hear, there's a transgender man in that movie, and I want to find another film with a transgender man in it to watch first
Mm-hmm.
because I've never seen a movie with a trans guy in it like myself. I've never seen myself represented on screen.
Yeah.
And I don't want the first experience of that to be
To
President
be.
Evil. Really
I don't blame you. Have you all I can think of though is like Umbrella Academy. It has Elliot Page.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, but he
it's
doesn't
not a
play
movie.
a
Yeah.
trans character in that. And then like I tried looking up films with trans men in them, and they were either like documentaries about like the queer community or just tragic
Mm-hmm.
shit happening to people, or the trans guy was played by a cis woman. And that's kind of like
Yeah.
I know there was like controversy about that. People thought it was like not a bad thing to have, I don't know, Scarlett Johansson play a trans guy or whatever. But like
Yeah.
think
Why
of it
not
this
find a
way.
trans guy?
Yeah,
It would be so
also
easy.
yeah, think of it this way. Like if you were gonna cast someone to play famous black civil rights advocate Rosa Parks, you wouldn't get Scarlett Johansson and paint her skin
No.
black, would you?
Mm-mm.
Um, think of it that way if you're on the fence about about it because he really shouldn't be.
It seems
Um,
logical to me to like use a trans person to play a trans person, but
yeah,
some people are not
uh,
logical.
no, some people aren't. I heard of a decent one called Fanfic. It's a Polish film. It's on Netflix, and I don't have a Netflix subscription, so I'll have to
Ooh,
figure that out. But yeah, and apparently the trans character is played by a trans guy, so that's going to be my pick for watching that before President Evil, just so that I can
what's it called?
fanfic, but
Okay.
with a K instead of a C because it's Polish. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, it's apparently on Netflix. I don't know if
I
you
do
can
have
even.
Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I'll check it
that's
out.
all right. Yeah, I'll check it out too, or I'll figure out a way to check it out. Yeah, would be really cool if we could make some more properties with trans men where we're played by trans men and it's not a documentary.
Yeah, and then they don't
Yeah.
get killed off like immediately.
Yeah, which I hear is also the case with the trans guy character in President Evil, but I can get into that discourse when we cover it. But suffice it to say, like I don't think it's stereotypical to want more queer representation in horror,
No.
especially because historically it's always been like minorities and women on the other end of the gun, and I think that's why like I avoid slashers more than my horror writer peers do
Hmm.
because that bugs me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it squicks me out and it keeps me from enjoying it. So
It's just
I don't know.
tiring too. Like with this one, obviously it's a bad movie, so I didn't expect much. But it's just like, really, all the women
Yeah,
died. Like,
yeah, and you
okay,
had to get your tits out first. It's like I don't know. I it just yeah, like I was gonna say something that I forgot what it was. So
sorry, I probably took you out of it. But no, that's my big thing with horror, and I love it with books too. Like, I love to see more queer, more BIPOC
yeah.
characters that don't get killed off. Yeah.
Yeah, and a diversity of perspectives in a genre contributes to the quality of the genre as a whole.
Hmm.
It shouldn't just be a cishet male perspective. Which, by the way, not to cause even more controversy, although I definitely will when I say this. Uh,
Uh
some interesting thing that I noticed about the controversy surrounding us covering Prince of Darkness
oh. Hmm.
is a lot of the people who said it was actually a masterpiece and shouldn't have been on the show. All of them were men, interestingly. I
Hmm.
wonder what that's about.
Hmm.
Because like I don't it didn't have as many sexist undertones as this film did, although it
Hmm.
definitely had some, but you could chalk that up to it being made in 1987.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
I just
yeah.
yeah, I found it interesting that like the people who wanted to praise it most were mostly cis guys. I was wondering what that's about. I have no idea. I don't know enough about the fandom surrounding John Carpenter to say, but is just kind of like the horror dude bros are very much in the camp of this movie. Whereas with me, my issue with it was mostly just it was too much expo and like almost no character work.
I've
So
never seen it, so I can't really speak to that, but I can say I
yeah,
know like John Carpenter fans go hard sometimes.
yeah, I understand. Like I'm a fan of Hellraiser, but also like I can be a huge fan of Hellraiser and acknowledge that not all of Clive
Yeah,
Barker's work is good.
and
Like
still be like critical of certain things. Like yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
doable. Doesn't mean you hate that person, that director, that writer, whatever. Like you can still
yeah. I
say
will
your
say
opinion.
we did forget to rate that movie. I would have given it a 3 out of 5. I don't think it was terrible. I just thought it was kind of boring. And there was a lot of like missed potential, and they spent too long trying to justify the premise of Jesus is an alien with like hard sci-fi, which is like
Oh,
ambitious.
yeah.
That yeah, like okay, whatever. That movie is better than Blood and Honey. If you're gonna watch, I would say of any of the films that I've covered on this podcast, if you're gonna watch any of them, either Prince of Darkness or Shark Side of the Moon, for very different reasons. But
That title is so amazing.
I'll send you a link to the episode where we covered Shark Side of the Moon because it was a
Okay.
transcendental experience. If you want something you'll never forget, like the experience that you'll never get anywhere else, watch Shark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
Be
I
prepared.
need
It's
to.
like, as Desiree puts it, it is indescribably terrible.
I mean, is
In
it
a funny
worse
way.
than Blood and Honey or
In some respects, yes, but also it commits to the bit
mm,
in ways that Blood and Honey falls short.
okay.
Um, and it ends up being very funny a lot of the time.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, like it's made by Asylum Studios, the same folks who did like Sharknado and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they know what they're doing. Like they know they're
Hmm.
writing a bad movie, and that's the point is to make a bad movie. And I mean, from the effects to the acting to the fucking yeah, it's a strange experience. So,
Okay.
yeah, the review that I gave to Desiree to convince her to cover it on this podcast was, "I've never laughed so hard at something that made me feel like I was cutting an onion." So
That is a amazing way to describe a movie. That makes me really want to watch
yeah,
it.
it's free. It's on Tubi. It's a
Okay, I
Tubi
have Tubi.
original. So
Yeah. Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. But if you're gonna watch any movie, either that or Prince of Darkness, because Prince of Darkness isn't like terrible. It's just definitely not my thing, and I have a lot
Okay.
of critiques about it. But if you're a fan of John Carpenter, I get it. Whatever.
Mhm.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Where were we? We were
Oh, you asked me what I want to see more in horror. Like what?
more of in horror. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or
That's my main one.
yeah? So like a diversity of perspectives,
Yeah.
just something fresh in the genre. I get that.
Hmm.
I feel the same way. I'd like for once to not be on the other end of the gun. That would be nice. So
Same.
yeah, like I almost like I don't know what it's gonna feel like to see myself be represented on screen. Like I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. I'm almost kind of like nervous because I've
It,
never had
it,
that experience before.
it would be
Um,
nerve-wracking, yeah.
yeah, it's just like how badly are they gonna fuck it up? Let's see. Who knows? Yeah, because from what I hear, the undertones of President Evil are very like blue checkmark liberal. It was made in 2018, back when we didn't have COVID to worry about.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Different times.
yeah, the most we had to worry about were whatever tweets Donald Trump was making, which, to be fair, were pretty terrible.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
it's not a global pandemic. So, what are some things that you're working on? Like, do you have any projects coming up? I know you had that charity anthology recently.
Yes, so that is pre-order stage. There's a haint in that there holler. It's amazing. I'm really excited to be part of that. And I am working on my novella still.
Mhm.
Uh, that'll be out probably next year, the beginning of the year. And then yeah, I'm just school. I'm in school full time. And the podcast I run.
Hey,
Uh,
Book Pals, it's a great podcast.
yeah, yeah. I am like have so many people that want to be on it, which is that sounds like I'm complaining about that, but it's very humbling. So I'm gonna be doing a
Yeah.
lot more of those. So it's fun. And yeah, I'm writing a Medusa story right now, a Medusa retelling where Medusa
Ooh.
gets revenge. Because I feel like Medusa has a really sad story that she doesn't deserve. So I was like,
Uh,
let me just rewrite it. Yeah.
that's I love that, honestly. There's been a lot of like a renewed interest in Medusa as a feminist icon in the past
Hmm.
couple of decades. She's been, sort of co-opted by the sapphic slash lesbian
Hmm.
community as kind of an icon.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love like feminist retellings of those kind of mythology things. There's been other books to come out like that. I think there's
Yeah.
one called Circe that I've been meaning to read.
Oh, I love that one. I am a big fan at like low key, high key of Greek mythology. And I've
Mhm.
read most of the retelling. So I read one called Danae. I'm not good at pronouncing some of the Greek names, but it's basically Perseus's mom.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it makes you really dislike Perseus. And he's a little shit. So in this story, I'm kind of like Perseus is going to get what he deserves. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see them do that with Megara and Hercules, because Hercules does some truly horrendous shit to Megara in the original.
Hercules is
Yeah.
terrible. It's so funny again, like how we like stand all these Greek men, but all the women get the short end of
Yeah.
the stick. So
Yeah. I remember like when I first found out about like the reality of the Hercules myth and how much different it was from like the Disney kind of cute, meet cute between him and Megara. That was, fine, whatever. I loved Hercules growing up as a
oh yeah,
kid.
the movie,
It,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, honestly, if anything I've watched has ever come close to like representing the trans mask experience, it's the movie Hercules. I'm dead serious. That's probably why I loved it so much growing up. He's very much coded that way.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I love that movie. It's upsetting to find out that and the reality is that Hercules murdered his wife and family
I was
in
about
a
to say
blind rage.
he killed like 7 of his, like all his 7 kids or something. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then like blamed it on the influence of the gods or something like that. Even though it really very much just sounds like those terrible homicides you hear about where some guy goes crazy and kills his family and then himself.
A
You
lot
know?
of men in Greek mythology do that. And then like there's Medusa who literally just had an affair with Poseidon, and they're like, "You're cursed, you're exiled, we're gonna cut your head off." Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that's also the bright side of mythology is that it lends itself so well to retellings. You
Yeah.
know, because you have these characters who represent archetypes, and even if there's an original myth surrounding them, you can always reinterpret it because the point
Yeah.
of mythology is to be able to reinterpret it.
And
So a
nobody
lot of
else can
people,
tell you can't, like, because who's
yeah,
gonna tell you
exactly,
no?
yeah, like nobody's really like formally worshipped these gods or built temples to them in a very very long time.
Yeah.
And I remember reading an essay of someone saying something similar about like superheroes being kind of American mythology because they're constantly
Mm-hmm.
getting rewritten, right? Their
Mm-hmm.
stories are getting reimagined and stuff like that. And especially with DC, they're not so much a character as they represent an idea. You know, Batman represents justice, Superman represents hope, that sort of thing. So it's interesting to draw that kind of parallel.
I think so too.
Tangent, but
Yeah, but that is what I'm working on. Like at this very moment, like as soon as we get off here, I'm gonna go like finish that story, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I don't know if I'm gonna submit it somewhere or what, but it's been really fun and kind of like healing to write this story about Medusa. So
yeah, that's cool. I look forward to reading it whenever it comes out. Send me a link. Um, so where can people find your work? Like what social media do you have? Websites, handles, that sort of thing?
So I am the spine of motherhood everywhere. So TikTok, the spine of motherhood, Instagram, the spine of motherhood. That's my email.
Links
Facebook
in the
is
description, by the way, for anybody who's yeah.
Facebook is just my name, Kirsten Noel Craig. And if you're on my Facebook, there's a beacons like link that has all of my links as well.
Other
So, but
stuff.
I try to keep the same, like, across all things. So, because I will forget what my
Yeah.
names and stuff are on things. So it's just the spine of motherhood everywhere. So, yeah.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, and I'll put a link to the charity anthology in there too, because that's
Thank
I mean,
you.
yeah, not just that, that's a really good cause, and I like that.
It is.
So yeah, I'll put that out there. Last question for you: what have you read or watched over the last week that is not shitty? Something that's good.
Um, hmm. I read a lot, so that's like I'm like trying to think of something. I
You can give a
read
couple of answers.
Okay, well I reread The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I'm a huge Plath fan. I'm obsessed.
Mhm.
I was very depressed after I read it. I actually listened to the audiobook and it's narrated by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually really well done. Like I love
Mhm.
her voice. So I know it's not a shitty book, it's a depressing and sad book. But
Yeah,
I loved it. And so I got like down a rabbit hole of like reading about Sylvia Plath's life and like
yeah. How tragic it is.
yeah, I got really sad for a couple
Yeah.
days. But I enjoyed it. So that was that. And I just finished up Cuckoo by Gretchen Felker Martin,
Yeah,
which
I've
is
been
about
meaning to read that one.
it's really good. It's really good. I love Gretchen very much. So
Was she
um,
on your podcast recently?
she was on Thursday. Yeah, I
Yeah.
almost pooped my pants. I was so excited because
Yeah,
Manhunt is
I'd
like
be
one of my
excited too.
favorite books ever, and it just got
Mhm.
like optioned for the sisters that did Matrix to do a film adaptation.
Oh, the Wachowski sisters. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. That's
so
cool.
I'm very hype. But yeah, Cuckoo, Gretchen actually sent it to me. It's like a rough pre-edit version because I was complaining on Instagram like I didn't get approved for the arc of this, and Gretchen messaged me. He's like, here you go. So I haven't. It came out in the summer though, and I didn't finish it until like this week or this past
Mhm,
week.
mhm.
But yeah, it's really good. It's really good conversion
Cool.
camp horror, but also like something else
Right.
terrifying.
I think we did chat about that
Yeah.
when I was on your podcast. We had talked about Camp Damascus, and then you'd brought up Cuckoo.
Yeah. Cuckoo. Yeah, yeah. It's good. It's yeah. I like Camp Damascus too for different reasons, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You know, I tried reading Bury Your Gaze, and I actually
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it. I got really irritated
Uh,
with the main character, which is
mm,
weird. Normally, I enjoy a Chuck Tingle, but yeah, something about this. It read less like his actions didn't feel like something someone would really do, but more like something someone thinks they would do in a certain
oh yeah.
situation. Like they think they would act heroic, but it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I understand what he's getting at, and like I understand that Chuck Tingle always likes to send a very strong message with his writing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it just pulled me out of the fiction. I'll tell you one really good one that got me sucked in this week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, more than most books is a book called Starter Villain by John
John.
Scalzi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen
and
that one around.
yeah, so the audiobook is narrated by Will Wheaton too, who gives the perfect like just kind of
Ooh.
jerk asshole sort of delivery, but like an asshole who like frequently steps on rakes, metaphorically speaking. Like he's kind of a jerk to people, but he's also like very down on his luck. He's just gone through a terrible divorce. He got fired from his job as a business reporter at the Chicago Tribune, and now he's like substitute teaching and hanging on by a thread.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he's a jerk, but he gets what's coming to him occasionally, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
his rich uncle dies, and this uncle he's never talked with, and leaves the business to him. And then he finds out the real business, is that his uncle was a supervillain, like
Oh
with a
no.
volcano lair and animal spies and like everything, with like death lasers and stuff like that.
That's
But it's
amazing.
got like a unique take on those concepts. Like, you know, the one gal who was like this villain's right hand, she says, like, I promise there's a reason we have a volcano layer. Like, trying to explain this stuff. And then like they have sentient animals where like the cats are spies for them.
Ooh,
Um,
I love
yeah,
that.
his cat Hera, like the goddess Hera, she's like really smart. She's got her own real estate portfolio. She's got this special stenography machine that allows her to type and stuff like
Oh
that.
my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then there's like dolphins that guard the volcano layer island, but they're all like assholes and they're on like a labor strike. And so when he takes over his uncle's position, he has to like negotiate a labor strike with dolphins.
Oh my God. I feel like dolphins actually would do that though.
Yeah, no, they're total jerks in this, and it's very funny. But yeah, it's a great book, especially if you like audiobooks, because Will Wheaton is like the perfect cast for it. So
I feel like he did an audiobook for
The
Stephen
Martian,
King.
yeah,
Oh,
he also did The Martian, but he might have done one for Stephen King. He
I
does
think he
audio.
did. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he was a good
I've
pick for The Martian too, for Mark
okay.
Watney. Yeah,
I have to, because I see a lot of people, I guess because I see people talk about it that aren't horror people, I'm kind of like, but then like I've seen it like at Barnes and Noble and stuff, and like
yeah,
on the recommended pages for Barnes and Noble. So I need to check it out because it sounds really
yeah,
fun.
yeah. It's a good, like, if you're, especially if you're like me and you like there's this archetype of male character which I like to call the depressed goblin nightmare man, which like the opposite of the manic pixie dream girl, where he's
Yeah.
just like he's kind of a jerk, but he's like a jerk for a reason, but he like keeps stepping on rakes, you know, like he's just sort
Yeah.
of a pathetic man who kind of deserves what he's getting, but then like over time he has to learn to like not be so pathetic.
Kind of
And
like
so it's just
Adam
kind of like,
Sandler, or like, is that
no, 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 no.
okay?
I wouldn't say this is an Adam Sandler type, because Adam Sandler is
Okay.
just an asshole, but he never steps on any rakes, you know, like he never gets what's coming to
Yeah, yeah.
him.
Okay, yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, like this is just, yeah, he's just kind of like a pathetic guy, and on some level he knows he deserves it. Um, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I love a trashy guy. I don't know what it is about me.
I
Um,
mean, same. Same.
yeah, so it's a good one, so long as you can like accept the premise, and you know this guy who like has all these problems and kind of justifies it by blaming everyone else for them, but eventually has to sort of accept that he's somewhat responsible.
I like that though. I like chaotic characters that kind of like get it together a
Yeah,
little bit, but they just never fully do because that's just who they are at their
yeah.
core. Like, yeah.
And like throughout the entire book, he's saying like this world is so different from what he's used to as a substitute teacher, and like he
Hmm.
just has no idea what he's doing. But every once in a while, his expertise will come in handy.
Hmm.
Like if he's talking to, there's this sort of cabal of other villains that he's talking to, and his like experience as a business reporter kind of comes into play because they essentially try to shake him down. And so he's like, yeah, I may not be familiar with being a villain, but I know a grift when I see one. I'm not going to let y'all pull this off. I'm out of here later.
I
So
love
that's what I
that.
mean when I say he's kind of like a jerk. He's just like, yeah, no, this is a grift. Fuck you. I'm out.
He's like he's unapologetic, I guess, maybe,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it's hard to explain the depressed goblin nightmare man, but it's just
If you think of other examples of what that would be, let me know later because I'm interested
yeah,
in that now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I write a lot of characters like that. Not all the time, but like for example, in the longer manuscript that I have coming up, I have a character who's kind of like that, the manic pixie dream divorced guy. Just-
I like that. We should have that more often because
yeah,
we know the manic pixie like women characters are very obvious, but like we don't
yeah.
have as many of the men. So yeah.
I don't know. I saw a Tumblr post that said like manic pixie dream divorced guy, and like it like lives in my head rent free.
I feel like it fits for a lot of things, so I'm gonna think more on it too now.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's the good thing that I read this week,
Thank you for the
and
recommendation.
thank you for the recommendation.
Of course.
I have been meaning to read the Bell Jar too. I haven't
Uh,
gotten around to it.
just wait till you carve out some time to be a little sad.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I sort of feel the same way about Oscar Wilde. Like,
Oh
The
yeah.
Picture of Dorian Gray is already a great book, but it makes it even more interesting when you know his backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
I love
yeah,
Oscar Wilde.
very bright guy who met a very tragic end. For listeners who may not be aware, he was gay during a time when that was illegal in England. And he was put in jail for it, put into forced labor, and died in prison when he was 40.
Yep.
Very terrible, but very, very bright and wonderful creator. So, anyway.
No, both no, both I agree. Both him and Plath, I'm like, if they'd only like stayed alive longer, can you imagine what kind of work we would have gotten from them? Because Plath killed herself when she was 30.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So,
she
like, if
was.
she'd stayed alive, like, holy moly, both of them just like, I
Yeah,
hate it.
from what
But
I
yeah.
understand, she very much speaks to the experience of being mentally ill,
Oh,
and
yeah. And
yeah,
also, like, having, like, because she was a little bit privileged, like, she went to college, she had a seemingly, like, good life,
yeah,
but she really struggled and
yeah,
kind of struggling in silence situation. So, yeah, it's
mm-hmm.
sad, but it is interesting to,
Yeah. It's important literature as well, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, it is.
Um, all right. Well, I would like to thank the Unveiling Nightmares YouTube channel for hosting this show. And I would like
Yes,
to thank you, Kirsten Craig, for being a guest. It's been lovely
of
to talk to you
course.
again.
As always, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, again, like links to socials and all that in the description. And until next time, there's something wrong with Piglet. He killed my wife.
I love that. What a perfect way to sign off. Thank you so much, Dev, for having me on and watching this movie with me.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye bye.